Guys, how is everybody doing? Continuing on my review series of the Planet of the Apes, here are my thoughts on Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. But also feeling very familiar. Starting up with my positives on Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, one thing I really enjoyed about this movie was seeing the return of Roddy McDowall. Now, if you do not know who Roddy McDowall is, he originally played Cornelius in the original Planet of the Apes and escaped from the Planet of the Apes. But if you see the end of Escape from the Planet of the Apes, you see that he dies. But at the same time, at the end of that movie, you see that those Cornelius and Zyra, his wife, had a baby monkey and they named it Caesar. And so, what I think is a brilliant idea to make Cornelius and Caesar seem related to each other and seem like the son of Cornelius, they brought Roddy McDowall back to play the character of Caesar. No, not that Caesar, a different Caesar, but kind of the same. But I really enjoyed the character of Cornelius in the in the first and Escape from Planet of the Apes movies, and I thought it was great to see him come back. He gives off a great performance. I would probably say this is his best performance in this entire franchise, and that's saying a lot because he really gives off a great energy here. He makes the entire time I was watching it. Yeah, sure, his name is Caesar, and we're not thinking of the Andy Circus one, but something that I like about it is just how different he is from the Andy Circus one. Yes, this one did come out before Rise of the Planet of the Apes and this new Planet of the Apes trilogy, but just how different this one feels and how a great performance he gives, and to where he, it's like Caesar from the from the trilogy that we got. It's where he hates humans. He hates seeing all these apes being slaves and being treated like pets in a way, and he hates that. And you feel his anger and you feel his sadness. And when his human master dies, who actually cared for him, and he cared for him too. And when he finds out that he's dead, when he starts crying and when he starts breaking down in tears, like that scene, you can just feel his energy. You feel his sadness. And another scene where the two cops are like tasing a monkey, and then when monkeys aren't supposed to be speaking, and when they do, they have to basically kill them. You can feel his energy when he screams, "You damn human bastards!"
Lousy human bastards!
Like that scene alone in this movie, like that's a great scene, and that's just a great performance there. Like you feel the energy, like you feel it's not like as powerful as Charlton Heston in the original screaming, "You damn dirty apes," or when Caesar in the Rise of Planet of the Apes screams no and speaks for the first time. It doesn't make you feel that powerful of an impact like you've heard him talk before then, but you just feel this great feeling in your body after hearing that, to where it's not like those like any of those lines from any other Planet of the Apes, but you just feel this great energy as you watch his performance, and it's great to see him come back, and he gives off his best performance I would say ever, because he's best performance by this man because he's a great actor in this movie. One more thing before I move on, what he does a good job at doing is at making to where you kind of forget that's Roddy McDowall who also played Cornelius, where his performance is so good as to where it doesn't feel like Cornelius. It feels like a whole different character. Now I keep bragging about his performance, but that's just how you know he gives off a great performance, because if he can make two two different characters played by the same person and be like make it feel like making you feel like a whole different person, and doesn't make you feel like, oh yeah, it's hard to like realize that he played this other character. But I never felt that. That is how great a performance Roddy McDowall gives, and I applaud him for that. Well, watching these original Planet of the Apes movies where we see the humans as slaves, especially in the first two movies where the humans are the slaves, they can't talk, they can't do anything, and then they're being studied and they're treated like pets. When you watch this movie, you understand why they do that in the original two movies, because you see the apes as slaves. They cannot speak, they have to do the biddings of the humans, and when they mess up, they get whipped or they get tased, to where you get to see the opposite of that, to where when you watch the original movie, you're like, I hate that, I would hate to do that, but when you watch this, you're like, I understand where the apes are coming from now. I understand why they did that. I understand why they enslaved the humans, because when you think about it, the way some humans treat animals, like abuse them, beat them, or treat them horribly, you would understand if that came back and turned on us, if the animals did that on us. Like, you would understand where they're coming from. I certainly would. I don't know if that makes me sound like a fucking weirdo or something like that. But you kind of understand, especially watching this movie where you see these humans treat these apes horribly. And then Caesar grows up to them and creates a bond with them. And then when you see the apes attack the humans, you kind of root for the apes because it's like, they treat you horribly. They deserve this. But at the same time, as a human, you're like, just don't do stupid shit, basically. Like about this movie is to where we continue right off where Escape from Planet of the Apes left off, to where it doesn't feel like this whole new movie. Cornelius and Zyra are both dead now, to where they don't just like try to tell this whole news story in the future of Planet of the Apes, like what happened like before the nuke happened, or kind of continue where with Cornelius and Zyra maybe before Charlton Heston showed up. No, they actually continue where they left off and where their baby monkey left off. Like, so it's like that because it's something that I appreciate, because when you watch movies nowadays, like if a character dies at the end of the movie, they're like, oh, let's go right back to the beginning and tell their origin story or something like that. But they continue right where they left off, and this movie tells the story of how we got to the point of the original Planet of the Apes. So how we got from point A to point B, basically. How we went from humans just being the way we are right now to apes enslaving us now. Like, I like how they tell us that. Like, we never needed that, but it shows us that. It tells us where and how it happened. And I'm glad that it continues that right after Escape from Planet of the Apes, because when you watch that, when Zyra and Cornelius come to the past Earth in the Escape from Planet of the Apes, you're like, this is how they enslaved them. Like, when you're watching that, you kind of think that. And now that we got this movie, it kind of makes Escape from Planet of the Apes better because we got that follow up and we got to see that story continue. That is what I really love about this movie. My final positive, I truly really love the more darker, serious tone in this movie, to where it has like a more serious tone than the original movie. Now that original movie had really serious moments, but it kind of has some goofy, campy moments here and there, to where not too goofy or try to make you laugh, but there's just moments there to where it just makes you laugh. But in this is a movie you take dead ass serious, and it makes a complete tone shift from Escape from Planet of the Apes, because Escape from Planet of the Apes felt like a sitcom, like a sitcom to a 70s parody movie, and I talked about that when I reviewed it. But now that you got this movie, which has like a more serious, darker tone, I truly love that. And where it comes to the tone, you understand this film more, because this tone that they go for, it just fits this film. And I would honestly probably hate this movie if they went with the tone of Escape from Planet of the Apes, because I would honestly say this is the most dark Planet of the Apes movie from this original franchise, because just how dark it is. It just seems so different from the others. And that's why I love it, because it's just different from the other films, and it's weird to say that, kind of. But moving on to the mixed aspects, though I love this movie, it's not perfect. Where this movie, where this movie falls wrong with me is how much it feels like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Now, technically, well, not technically, this movie did come out before Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This movie came out during the 70s. Rise didn't come out until 2011. There's a huge time gap there. That is like 30 to 40 years there. So, but I did watch Rise of the Planet of the Apes first. That was the first one I ever watched. That was my introduction to this universe. That was my introduction to this franchise. So, shame on me, I guess. But then when I found out more about this movie, apparently Rise of the Planet of the Apes it took a lot of influence from this movie. Well, no shit, because Caesar, and all that. Because the entire time I was watching it, just like, oh yeah, you can tell that it feels like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but I tried not to let that get to me, and I tried to enjoy the movie as it was. But, I don't know, the entire time I was watching it, I was just like, it feels too much like that. But at the same time, I kept trying to remind myself, this movie came first. It came first. But for someone who grew up with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, who grew up with that movie, that was my introduction to this franchise. And then when you watch this movie afterwards, it just feels off. But I will give credit where credit's due, where this movie did come out first, and this movie did influence Rise of Planet of the Apes. I don't know. The entire time I was watching it, I just couldn't help that. To where I tried to tell myself it came first. But at the same time, my other side of the brain's just like, no, this one is a ripoff of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Like, I don't know. It was just it maybe won't affect you, but it definitely affect my experience with it. I'm moving on to my negatives, and it's more of a nitpick, if anything, because I need to find something negative about this movie, I guess. Because I don't want to leave without a negative, because I can't tell myself it's a perfect movie. But there is one thing that I found myself not really caring for throughout this entire movie, and again, it's a small nitpick. There is this weird Caesar love story interest thing going on in this movie, where there's like this lady ape, to where she's like a messenger in a way. She'll give messages to people or give mail to people. And Caesar and her kind of grow like this relationship a little bit throughout this movie, kind of, but then they kind of departure from it until like the very end of the movie. They build that up and then they like kind of leave it, and then they come back to it. Now, I don't hate that, and maybe it's kind of like I like to think of it as that they're meant to be the new Cornelius and Zyra Planet of the Apes, kinda. I feel that's what they were trying to do, but it just didn't really execute it greatly. And they introduce it, they kind of do something with it, they kind of leave it for a while, and then they come back to it at the very end of the movie. I don't know. It was weird, and it just was like, oh yeah, that was a thing in this movie. All in all, guys, I really loved Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and I would probably you were probably gonna yell at me, but I might prefer this over the original Planet of the Apes. That's how much I truly love this movie. It's a damn good movie. I really love this movie. Now, if you didn't really care for much for Escape from Planet of the Apes, then definitely check this movie out, because if you do not care for the last entry of this franchise, you need to watch this movie, because this movie was amazing. I truly love this movie. This is my Planet of the Apes movie that I really love, the one I really gravitate towards more, because it was just an amazing film. I really enjoyed this movie, and the only thing that kept me from really, really loving it and my clearly putting it over the original Planet of the Apes is just how much it feels like Rise. But it's an amazing film. I truly love this. If you're a fan of the original Planet of the Apes, watch this movie. If you didn't care for the other two movies that came after that, then you're going to love this movie, because this movie was amazing. What do you guys think of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you prefer this over Rise of the Planet of the Apes? If you have seen it, do you prefer it over the original? Do you prefer it over Escape from the Planet of the Apes? Let me know in the comments below, and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you loved it, subscribe with the bell notification so you will get notified for all my latest videos, and for the rest of my Planet of the Apes review series coming towards you more until the new Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, which I'm very excited to check out. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, I will see you all in the next video.